Welcome back, everybody. Today we're doing a deep dive into a new ransomware they're calling SuperBlack.
Oh, yeah, I read about that one.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild story, and our main source here is going to be an article by Bleeping Computer. It was published just yesterday, March 13, 2025.
Okay.
And the title of the article is New SuperBlack Ransomware Exploits Fortinet Auth Bypass Flaws.
Interesting.
And what makes this story particularly interesting is the possible link to LockBit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to unpack all of that. But first, let's start with the basics. What exactly makes SuperBlack different from other types of ransomware?
Well, one of the things that makes SuperBlack stand out is how it exploits not one, but two vulnerabilities.
Oh, wow.
In Fortinet firewalls, so these vulnerabilities are called CVE-2024-55591 and CVE-2025-24472, and both of these are authentication bypasses.
Okay, so for our listeners who aren't quite as tech-savvy, can you break down exactly what authentication bypass means and why it's such a big deal?
Sure, so authentication is basically how you verify someone's identity. Like a bouncer checking your ID at the door.
Makes sense.
So in this case, these vulnerabilities let attackers completely skip past the bouncer. They get in without needing any passwords or logins.
Oh, so they basically have a master key that can open any door.
Exactly. And you can imagine why that's a major problem from a security standpoint.
Absolutely.
It gives the attackers a direct line right into the network, bypassing a crucial layer of defense.
Right, and to make things even more complicated, I understand there was some confusion surrounding one of these vulnerabilities,
Yep,
right?
you're absolutely right. So initially, CVE 2025-24472, this vulnerability, it was reported as not being actively exploited.
Oh, interesting.
But researchers at Forescout actually later found evidence that, yes, it was being used in SuperBlack attacks. And this just goes to show how important ongoing research and investigation is,
Yeah.
These threat actors, they're constantly adapting and finding new ways to exploit things.
Yeah.
Even vulnerabilities that people thought were harmless.
Right, so it's almost like a cat and mouse game.
Yeah, exactly.
As soon as you fix one thing, they're already on to the next.
Exactly. And this is why you got to stay vigilant and proactive when it comes to security.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move on to how the attackers are actually utilizing these vulnerabilities. So once they get in, what happens next?
Right.
So the Bleaking Computer article goes into detail about the attack chain used by the group behind SuperBlack.
Okay.
They call themselves Mora_001. And it really does read like a playbook, almost step by step.
It's scary how organized they are.
It is.
It's incredibly methodical, definitely sophisticated attackers. The first thing they do is they escalate their privileges to gain super admin access.
Okay, so they're not just sneaking in the back door. They want full control of the house.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And it gives them the keys to the kingdom so they can pretty much control everything on the network.
Oh, wow.
And the next step is creating those persistent backdoor accounts.
Okay, so what does that mean?
It's like planting a secret entrance that they can use to get back in, even if the original vulnerability is discovered and patched up.
It's a little unsettling to think about them just setting up shop on your network.
Oh, yeah?
Like they're moving in and getting comfortable.
It's definitely a concern, and it gets even worse because they don't stop there.
Oh, no.
Next, they start mapping the network and moving laterally.
What exactly does moving laterally mean? It sounds kind of like a military term.
It is a great analogy. Think of a spy sneaking into a building, right?
Okay.
They don't just stay in that first room. They move room to room, exploring, looking for the good stuff.
Okay.
And lateral movement is the same idea, but in the digital world.
Gotcha.
Attackers use their access to poke around the network, find those connected systems, and ultimately find the most valuable targets.
And what are they usually looking for? What kind of targets?
It's the crown jewels of any organization, sensitive data, customer information, financial records, anything and everything that could be valuable.
So basically they go on a little reconnaissance mission.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah.
And once they've identified their targets, they move on to the next stage of their plan, data exfiltration.
Data exfiltration. Okay, that sounds ominous. What does that involve?
That's the process of actually stealing the data. They essentially copy all that valuable information they found.
Okay.
And transfer it out of the network quietly onto their own servers.
And this is where it gets really devious, right?
Yeah.
They actually steal the data before encrypting it.
It's a double whammy.
Oh, so they're really adding insult to injury.
Not only do they lock up your data and hold it for ransom, but they also threaten to release it publicly if you don't pay up.
Oh, wow.
It's a really effective way to pressure their victims.
That's a total nightmare. But hold on, I thought we were talking about ransomware.
Yeah.
What's with the data exfiltration?
Well, the lines between different types of cyber attacks, they're getting blurrier all the time. A lot of ransomware groups now, they just include data theft as part of their process.
Okay, so it's about maximizing profit.
You got it. It's all about the money. And to make matters even worse, they have one final insult. They deploy a custom wiper called WipeBlack.
WipeBlack. What in the world is a wiper? That sounds pretty intense.
Think of it like a digital cleanup crew.
Okay.
WipeBlack, it's designed to erase any traces of their activity, so it makes it way harder for investigators to piece together what happened.
So like they're trying to erase their fingerprints from a crime scene?
That's a great way to put it. It really speaks to the level of planning and sophistication these guys have. They think of everything.
All right, so we've got this new player on the scene, SuperBlack, with a scary organized attack method. But there's another layer to this whole story that we got to unravel.
Right.
And that's the possible connection to the infamous LockBit ransomware gang. That's where things get even more interesting. But first, we need to take a quick break. We'll be right back.